Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital?
Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast.
Hello!
Hi! I don't even know what to do.
I'm telling you, my teeth hurt from smiling.
Oh, so we just finished speaking with Michael Sutton, who played Stone Cates on General Hospital, and I know
I made sure not to say his name because I didn't want to call him Stone.
And I know, and we talk about that a little bit, and I think that he knew, like, we weren't, because we kept saying you, but I mean, he knew what we were talking about.
Yes.
So, I can't. It was just wonderful. He was wonderful to talk to, and I know that we say this every single time. Oh, hey, by the way, welcome to the Port Charles 411. I think I forgot to say that.
Yes, you did.
Oops. So if you have no idea who we're talking about with Stone Cates, go back to last week's Port Charles 411. We talk about the character, and this week we talk to the actor. So we'll just talk to you after the interview. So enjoy our chat with Michael Sutton. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Who's Amanda?
I'm Shannon.
I'm Amanda.
Okay, nice. How are you both?
Doing good, yeah.
Nice.
Thanks so much for agreeing to talk with us. And
of course, it's my pleasure. I hope that this works out okay, you know?
Yeah. So we have what was that?
I said it is what it is these days with Zoom and home feeds, lighting and everything else. So we'll go for it.
Exactly. You just got to make the best of it.
Of course.
So yeah, we have a General Hospital fan podcast, and we do something every Thursday called the Port Charles 411. And we typically dig into either a character or an event, or sometimes we do interviews with cast or past cast. And, we just recapped Robin's diary, and we're sitting there like, it's been 25 years. Oh my goodness. Why isn't anyone doing anything? So we decided to be the ones to do it.
Fantastic. That's good. That's great. There was a lot of interaction on Twitter, especially. So it got all the dialogue going again.
Yes. And this week we're actually recapping your character. So then we'll release this interview next week.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. And at least for us, so Amanda started watching before I did, and he was kind of like your first storyline that you really watched.
Yep.
And I started watching consistently because, school, whenever we got home, I missed it, was when Lily died, which was the year after you. So I had never watched the storyline from beginning to end until last week. And I was a hot mess.
She cried during our recap as we were talking about it. That's how involved she was.
Wow. Yeah, it was heavy.
Did you know when you were cast that you were going to be part of that storyline and pass away?
No. So I think originally they were looking to find a character for Antonio Sabato's storyline and Jagger. Mm-hmm. So they brought me on to play his brother because he was getting a lot of publicity at the time. So they were like trying to develop that. I think that was their main goal. And then about 2 weeks after I joined, they brought in Maurice Bernard as Sonny, and then started that whole dynamic of like a fight over the parental and responsibility for Stone and that tug of war. And I think it wasn't until about a year into the character where Wendy Rich wanted to do an AIDS storyline. And as she tells the story, they were doing sort of a discussion with the writers and figuring out what the best vehicle would be to tell that story. And they kind of liked the heterosexual storyline that, Stone and Robin could engage into, with Stone's background being on the street and maybe some intravenous drug use. So it sort of was the right character to do it. And then, when they started to kind of talk about it more, with Kimberly's character growing up on the show and everybody being so like endearing towards her, and it affecting more people than less, I think that they kind of got their answer that it was going to be the Robin and Stone storyline to affect as many people as possible with an impact that, change has to happen. You have to relook at the way you're perceiving this. It's not a niche disease. You can't stereotype it to the gay community. And I think if they would have done it, without those components, it wouldn't have hit home like it did to so many. And I think that was the legacy of that, is that it affected everyone and everyone cared. And so everyone had to relook at the way that they thought about the disease.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Because we've even talked about how when we were in school and the way that they were educating us, it was a stereotypical, demographic. And they even addressed that, when Stone went to visit Lucky's class and everything. I thought that, how did you prepare for the role? Like, how did you really, or for that storyline? I mean, we'll talk about the other stuff you did too. But, preparing for that storyline, how did you?
Out of sheer terror, to be honest with you. It scared me to my core because I was a relatively new actor. I had gone to film school. I had done a bunch of commercials. I was just, sort of trying to get comfortable on that sound stage, to be honest with you. To be thrown that sort of heavy material, I just didn't know if I was ready for it, to be honest with you. So because I was so intimidated by it, I just got consumed with how am I going to, kind of make this real. So that's really what it became for me. It really was a method acting sort of, it was just me raw, because I didn't know how to do any of the other tricks of the trade, so to speak. And I'm glad that it was that way, because I think that's why it was so powerful. It really got that essential sort of just gut-wrenching performance out of me. And if I would have been a more seasoned actor, maybe I would have taken an easier approach to it. So it was a blessing in disguise. I mean, when I first got there, if they would have told me I had to cry, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. I would have wanted to cut an onion and get tears going and, try to see how I could manifest and fake it. But when that thing got to the end of the storyline and we did the documentary and I met all these people that went to the AIDS hospices and that had died along the way. And it really was real. And people were coming up to me on the street, like I was Stone, and they wanted to talk to me about people that had been affected. And so it was a daily sort of thing that I couldn't escape from, not only the material, but offset as well. I mean, if I wasn't sleeping and eating, I was on the set and learning my lines. And then everything else being thrown at me was from people that wanted to discuss the material and the subject matter. So I was that for those, 2 years or a year and a half.
It was really, really well done and, beautifully told. And I mean, it's still spoken about as one of the best storylines that kind of brought us up to date with AIDS and what it actually is. And, how they've progressed Robin too over the past 25 years. They've kept up with it. So.
Yeah. You know what? That's, I think, the most surprising thing that I'm proud of is that the story made it as meaningful after the fact and kept, the legacy going, which I think they really were obligated to do, having told a story in real time. And I think, I just literally spoke with Kimberly yesterday because we did a little interview for Michael Fairman. And so I hadn't seen her in a while. It was great to sort of reminisce and talk about all that, those moments and those things. But, I think that we can be proud of it. And, what was discussed was, we want to be that sort of the passing of the baton from Luke and Laura to the Robin and Stone. I would like that to be the way that those two get memorialized, that they were the romantic couple of, the 90s, and GH passed the baton from Luke and Laura to them. And then we'll see who they pass it to next, Yeah. But everyone else is just a single entity. Maurice Bernard, who's my brother. I love him. When you think of Sonny, you think of Sonny. You think of Sonny in the relationships, but it's Sonny. When you think of Stone, it's Robin and Stone. Mm-hmm. When you think of Luke or Laura, it's Luke and Laura. They go together as an entity.
Yeah. No, you're right. Because when we were preparing for just the Stone recap, because I hadn't watched it live at that time, I was like, there really wasn't anything other than when you started is when you worked with Karen a lot, and then Jagger found you, and then you met Robin, and the rest is history, you know?
Yeah. No, it's true. With COVID, it's interesting. So much good TV had been produced, and now we're able to like sit at home and be entertained and watch it. And, as an actor back then, I used to always be like, well, it's a soap opera and it came with like a stigma or limitations. But when you see like, the way in which people stream, material now, that's why I realized the fans were so engaged, because it was a daily thing, not a weekly thing or not a 2-hour movie. So I really felt like that's why when people talk to me, it's like they know me, and it catches me off guard sometimes, because the manner in which they would interact with me was I was still part of their family, and I wasn't some fictionalized character that was once a week or, a sitcom or something that people valued as better storytelling sometimes, but it really isn't, and there's no harder work than a soap opera. I can tell you, learning, 60 or so pages of dialogue a day and doing an episode a day. I mean, there's no harder work out there. So I think it was the right vehicle to tell that story in the right format, and TV nowadays is proving to be the medium to tell, great stories, not film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what did you do in your downtime away from that story? Because it had to be stressful to be in that character and on in a way all of the time.
Oh my God. It's so true. I was so just depressed from the material and drained and exhausted that finally, my dad was a very prominent public relations agent. So he had a lot of actors and production companies and directors, et cetera. But one of the accounts he had was a nightclub. And so I said to my dad, I said, I don't see my friends. I just am in this little bubble. I said, I want one night a week where I can just see all my friends and have a couple drinks and just release some of the pressure. And so I started promoting a nightclub while I was on General Hospital. And so that night of the week, I just made it a point that I would learn my lines as quickly and best I could, but I would get to the nightclub and just call time out. And that was my sanity. So literally I was working all the other time, but those 2 hours or 3 hours on that one night a week, that's what I did. So I became a nightclub promoter, and that led to a whole other business for me. Actually, I got into the restaurant and nightclub business and owned a bunch of restaurants and nightclubs, and it was a second career for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep on. I don't know how to.
I always monopolize. I'm less shy than Amanda. So,
well, Amanda, how was the storyline when you were watching it in real time? I mean, what sort of was the resonance there?
So I had grown up with General Hospital just here and there. My mom had watched it, and you just kind of watch it because it's in the house. And then we had moved from Pittsburgh back to Ohio to a different area than what I had grown up in. So I didn't have any friends. So General Hospital was like my come home from school and have an escape and just be completely consumed in that. And I loved Jagger and Karen, and then came along Stone with Robin. And just the fact that she was, only a few years older than I was. And it was a completely different story than what we had been being told in health class. That's not how I had looked at HIV and AIDS. And so it was not just a storyline, but an education.
Right. Did you watch the documentary also?
I didn't. I will have to watch that.
Yeah. That was like, it became double work, but it was also, our sort of educational tool. Cause I mean, we were filming the documentary simultaneously. So I was going to AIDS hospices. I was going and meeting with the doctors at UCLA who were giving the writers the information. I mean, they really told the story in a delicate manner that was respectful for what, the magnitude of the disease was. And, it's something that in discussions yesterday, it was brought up. I never really thought about this before, but for better or for worse, I think COVID, the one benefit that happened with COVID was that because people weren't so entrenched with their own daily lives, and they were forced to like slow down. They weren't working. They were at home. They were able to sort of process things in a different way. I think that's what changed with Black Lives Matter, was that people were able to say, wow, you know, what really is going on, as opposed to like, oh, it's not my problem. I'm not Black. I don't have to deal with this. And they put it in its own little category. I think COVID allowed for the white majority to say, wait, who's accepting this? This isn't right. Let's do something about it. And in a weird way, I sort of feel like the genius behind General Hospital's choice to do the AIDS storyline that way, by making it a majority discussion, not a minority discussion, changed the way in which they were able to like progress. And, you know, it's like, I see a parallel there, although they're completely different. I get it. And I'm not looking to, you know, lessen what Black Lives Matter is, but it doesn't just take the victim complaining. It takes the oppressor to realize that something has to change. And I think that's,
and there's a lot of misinformation. So
yeah,
you know, that's clarifying it. So
connection between the two that sort of woke up the, you know, the popular majority.
Yeah. And I mean, if it happened, if the HIV and AIDS came about now for the first time, it would probably still be thought of the same way, you know, that, well, that's not my problem. You know, and especially now with social media and everything. I mean, it's so easy to just drown in all the information, misinformation, whatever, you know, but
yeah,
there's just so much coming at us. But you're right, like COVID slowed us down, and you were able to better digest single things at a single time. And
yeah, because life's harder. You know, people don't have time to worry about other people's problems as much as their own needs. You know, they're working, they got kids, they're busy, they're just trying to make ends meet, and sometimes they miss, you know, what's the bigger picture, just because they can't afford that time, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's life in general. You know, it's like humanity we're only as good as our weakest link, and we need to all elevate, you know, to win. So there can't be any men, women left standing, left behind. And I think that's sort of hopefully where we're going. And, you know, Kimberly was great yesterday. Kimberly, you know, being a child actor, she was saying that obviously the storyline was so big, but she said she did her best work also as an actor in this. And, you know, which is great, because you could be on a show for many years and many decades, but if it's not meaningful, you're just, you know, you're delivering lines, you know,
right.
You're getting paid and you're delivering the lines, and it's great and it's entertaining, but it's not important. And, you know, everyone in this storyline, and they really brought in everybody. I mean, Maurice Bernard, I talk to all the time. I hit him for Thanksgiving, and, you know, he's like, oh, I was just talking about you, you know? So it's like, we have this connection that won't go away, because we've been in the trenches together. And even if I haven't seen or heard from Kimberly in a while, it's like, you know, she's family, because, you know, we've been through it, and it's nice. There's a comfort level where the acceptance is there always.
Yeah. How did the two of you work together through the storyline? You know, because you said like you went and did the nightclub and you couldn't hang out with your friends and everything. Did you stay like in contact outside of work hours, or, you know, did you talk about how you're going to do the story together?
So we had this acting coach that was working with Kimberly. His name is John Homa. And John was working with a bunch of great actresses, primarily young actresses. He was working with Kimberly, and because all of our scenes were together, he started coaching me as well. So between doing the documentary, doing our acting classes, and the scenes, we spent so much time together that we really got in sync, and we knew what choices we were making together. We knew the direction of the storyline and how we wanted to portray it. We knew the arc of what was going to happen a few weeks in advance, so we could prepare for it, so that it wasn't one note. We knew it had to build up, and then we knew, you know, there was going to be a lot of different levels, you know, not just the panic of, oh my God, but then the anger and the fear and the sad, and, you know, different levels throughout it, and when to bring that out. So yes, the answer is we did really get in sync, and we were coached very well together. it was like getting our PhD in acting, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think, you two are a perfect example of, why this storyline won't go away. Shannon, you just watched it for the first time,
Yeah.
and Amanda, you had, this place in your heart for 25 years about it. So it's like, there's new people to turn on and watch it. And we have to remember that the storyline of a soap opera is in perpetuity. It's ongoing. So it's like, I got 3 or 4 calls saying, come back as a ghost. So I'd come on and play the character, again, and they'd figure out a way to work me in the storyline. And I'm hoping that happens again, being that Maurice is still on the show, there leaves opportunity for me to come in and do scenes with him or, figure out a way to be meaningful still. And then who knows, I don't think Kimberly's going back to the show anytime soon, but you never know. And they may bring us both back for some dream sequence or something like that. And the fans want to see it. So when things like that come up, I know I would be willing and able to do it. And I'm sure she would as well. So it's an ongoing thing that we'll stay involved with. And
let's hope, because at the beginning of the year, she posted that and I quietly retired from acting, and we're all like, what? I mean, they can't they're not going to recast Robin Scorpio. No. Like, that's not going to happen.
No.
But Anna's getting married. She needs to be there.
Right. And so maybe that'll be, you're right, for events like that. And I mean, I would imagine Kimberly would, out of respect to the character, figure out how to do it. I don't think she necessarily wants to go back to acting on General Hospital, but those types of things I think are important to just kind of be there for. Right.
Especially where we need an exit. I mean, she and her husband went to California, but that was not when Luke left. He left. Luke is not coming back. So
is that right? He's not coming back?
Yeah. When was that? 2015. Okay. Tony Geary he's gone. So
I didn't know that. I hadn't followed that. Interesting.
So had you watched the show before? Here, I'll steal your question that you always ask. Had you watched the show before?
Yes. So my mom and my grandmother were diehard General Hospital fans. So whenever I was at home, whether I was sick or some day that, I was at home and not at school, I would watch the soap operas with my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother was like a second mom. She was hilarious. She would read all of my fan mail. She would address back all of my fan mail. She would tell me all about it. Then we would pick a day and I'd read all the fan mail with her. It was an amazing bonding experience. I was very close with my mom and my grandmother with the connection with GH. I brought them down to the set. She was so funny meeting everybody. She'd call them by their character name, their screen name. No matter if I said, this is Maurice, she'd say, hi, Sonny. It was great. And I didn't want to interfere with that or correct her I just wanted her to have her moment. So it was great. So that was the extent of which I knew about the show. I didn't really watch it, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But when I did get the casting for it, I started watching the show. So I was like, all right, let me know what's going on. I knew who Jagger was and I knew who Karen was, those characters, because they were in my scene that, I had to do a screen test with them. So that was that. Then I was thrown into it, to be honest with you, once I got notified. So I had the screen test and then I was told that they were looking at 1,500 people in New York. Wow. So they did the LA portion of the casting, the New York casting, and then they would have a decision. So I knew it would, it was potentially still a long shot. So then after they looked at people in New York, we did a screen test, and then I got notified literally that I started working like 10 days later, and they sent me 6 scripts, and I was like, wow, this is a lot of work. To do a screen test, I was working off the same 6 pages to do, my sessions with the casting directors and with the producers and whatnot. And then I was like, I got to learn how many pages a day. And wait a minute, it was like overload. So it's a crazy process. I give them a lot of credit. When I went down to the set last time to work with Maurice, it was pretty remarkable to see how he did it, because at this point now, he was just quickly memorizing his lines and then delivering them, as opposed to the rehearsals and the memory, because it's just too much nonsense after a while. He just needed to know what he needed to know at that moment, deliver it, and then new information, retain it, deliver it. And that's how he kind of got through the day, which is remarkable. And he's an amazing actor. To do what he's done and carry that show year after year is just outstanding.
He's definitely one of our favorites.
Yeah. And, recently I'll tell you, it's with COVID going on. So I got into real estate after the restaurant and nightclub business. I got into real estate, and I sort of do luxury estates in the Beverly Hills area, like buying and selling, and then design build. We just started a little fund to do, to do spec homes and flip in the market, which is cool. But PPE came around, and I got involved in trying to procure gloves and masks for some of the different hospitals and frontline providers. So some of the people that I came in contact with were huge General Hospital fans.
Oh.
I hit up Maurice and I said, listen, do you mind doing a little video clip and addressing it to this nurse? And, so he did 2 really funny video clips for me for people that are in the PPE business. And they loved it. I sent it to them and they were just shocked, because that's their superstar guy now telling them that they're superstars and thanking them for their service. So it was pretty cool.
And that was really sweet of him to do too. It's
yeah. He actually said, he goes, that's what we're supposed to do. That's the responsibility that comes with being a celebrity or famous. He's like, that's our job. So he really understands. And that's why I think with his whole bipolar mental illness awareness, he's so dedicated to it and so vulnerable with it to expose, something that otherwise most people wouldn't talk about.
Yeah. I have a daughter who's autistic, and Amanda has a daughter that's bipolar too. So we definitely really respect him on a whole other, we love him in the mob and everything, but yeah, that part of it too is really,
that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I'm sure that, being, connected to that world, then you really understand what he's doing. It's awesome.
And I'm also in real estate. So if you ever need anything in Pittsburgh, just hit me up.
I love it. Let's do it.
That works.
Yeah.
So you haven't acted as much, obviously, since General Hospital. Was that a conscious decision, or do you feel like you were just stuck in the stone role? You needed something completely different?
When I got off the soap, I was like, okay, now at least I had proven to myself I could act. I knew that I could kind of manipulate the material the way that I wanted to. And I was really gung-ho. And one of the first things that I got was this movie called Inventing the Abbots. And, it had this stellar cast, and it was like, Jennifer Connelly and Billy Crudup and Joaquin Phoenix and Liv Tyler. And anyway, so I was like, great, this is going to be amazing. But, I did a film that didn't perform as well as they thought. If they thought it was going to be a blockbuster film, it was a tiny little role. So it's like, as I got older, I was realizing it's like, everyone wants to be a movie star, and everyone wants to do film, or everyone wants to do different things. But I was never going to get the character or the material that I got on General Hospital. And that started to be a problem. It worked to my favor in Inventing the Abbots because the casting director loved what I did on General Hospital. So she pushed me to make sure that the director knew that that's who they wanted to play this role, and that worked. And then it worked against me with just about everything else. I would walk into casting rooms and they'd be like, that's the kid that died of AIDS, that's Stone, that's da. And I couldn't believe that it was a stigma, but it was. It was. And, I acted a year and a half ago. I did a little part in a pilot for this production down in Florida. So I do little things every now and then, but I don't pursue it. If people call me with something that's cool, as long as I can fit the time in, I got a full separate career and a whole different path that I'm on. But as a craft, I love acting. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. So have you ever done any, stage theater, anything like that?
I did a play called The Class of 1990 I believe it was called, at the Tiffany Theater in West Hollywood here. That was the only time I did theater. I was, an athlete growing up, so I didn't spend any of the time in the drama department. I was really playing sports, and it wasn't until after I got done with high school that I started modeling and doing commercials, and then got into film school and started acting, and that was the path that was completely different. But I went to high school with Steve Burton, and Steve Burton was in the drama department at the high school. So, he was a seasoned actor in my eyes, and I was an athlete, so I had a learning curve to catch up to him. And I'm going to actually speak to Steve tomorrow. He does some podcast that I'm committed to do tomorrow. So I'm not sure what I got myself into. But
it'll be fun. It's fun. It's a good podcast. It's a good show. It's with him and Bradford.
Right. But I heard they have a comedic routine, and they do live performances, and they have a band.
Yep.
Right?
So they before COVID, they would come to different comedy clubs. So like they would come to our Improv, and they only came to Pittsburgh twice. And it's great. They just, the first time I actually went by myself because Amanda had to babysit, and best excuse ever.
Right.
And I was like, but I want to go. So I'm going to go by myself. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And it was just hysterical. They're so funny. Yes, Jason is with Sam, but it's really about Jason and Spinelli. They're the true love story on the show, is their friendship and everything. So
that's funny.
Well, and that's one of the things that interested me the most not the most, but I thought was really interesting as I was watching the Stone storyline was he and Jason actually were kind of friends when he was Jason Quartermain. Right. And then obviously now he's Jason Morgan, and he doesn't know who Stone is, he doesn't remember you. And I was like, why can't they damage his brain again? And all of a sudden those memories come back that he does remember because he's so close with Sonny.
This is the first time I'm learning that information. So tell me that again. Jason Quartermain is no longer Jason Quartermain?
No. So AJ had a drinking problem, and he drunk drove one night and smashed into a tree. Mm-hmm. And Jason wound up in a coma, and he came out, and he was not Jason Quartermain anymore. So he took the name Jason Morgan, which was Lila's maiden name, right? So his grandmother's maiden name. And then that's when he hooked in with Sonny. And that was the really fun part, was seeing he and Sonny working, he came to the penthouse to see Stone and invite him over to go work out in the gym and everything.
Right.
But Sonny was very hesitant, and he's like, I can't trust the Quartermains, this, that, and the other thing. And now Jason's his right-hand man. So Jason's last name is now Morgan. He basically, he reconnected with the Quartermains, but it's out of respect. He's no longer a doctor. He is now Sonny's enforcer. And pretty much what he was training you to do is what Jason does now.
Got it.
And then Sonny named his son Morgan Stone Corinthos after the two of you.
Right. That I knew about. Interesting. Well, see?
AJ's dead now.
I've not kept up, but that's a big vital piece of information you just gave me.
Yes.
Because he may have mentioned that tomorrow, and I wouldn't know what he was talking about. All right, good.
Yeah, so he doesn't remember anything from before the crash.
Wow. Okay. Well, we've seen it before. Didn't Tony Geary come back as his cousin or his twin or something?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We thought that it was going to happen recently, but it didn't. When was that? That was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
That we thought, oh, no. He was in the bike crash over the summer.
Oh, yeah, that was a couple months ago. Right.
And nothing came of it, but.
Hopefully they keep the soaps and figure out, how to keep that whole, TV production working and worth it. Reality shows really have killed, the soaps, but the soaps are very important, I think. So I hope they figure out how to do it. There may be less of them, but someone's got to kind of become a marquee sponsor and get the financing to what really will kind of get the production value back on that show. And let them really cast it properly. And, that's what's changed from my understanding is they just don't have the budget anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was even just listening to the music that was played at the Paradise Lounge was all top 10 hits, like top 40. And there is no way they would do that now.
No.
There's no way they could pay for the rights to have 5 Prince songs in one episode.
Yeah. 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 It's sad. I hope they figure it out. It's, what's the most popular soap opera these days?
I think they all pretty much rotate. I think GH gets up there. Oh, there's only 4. Right. So
there's only 4. Wow.
Yeah.
How many were there back then? I think there was like 8 or 9 or more. I don't know.
At least, because
I think it was 9. Because didn't each network have 3? And then they tried doing those like half-hour things that would start ahead of time, but those never really held.
Guiding Light.
The spinoffs. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Antonio did that. The spinoff. I think Kimberly did the spinoff too.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Night Shift. So we just watched that for the first time over the summer when GH ran out of episodes, but we only watched the first season before they were able to come back. But Jagger has a son named Stone.
Jagger does.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Yep. On Night Shift.
Yep. So he had a son, but it's not Karen's son.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They got to figure out how to archive all the shows so that if someone just wanted to watch Robin and Stone's storyline, they just have that, Yes. And nowadays they can do it. And they should just make a deal with Netflix or someone and just, put the different storylines up.
Yeah. They should do it with Disney Plus because they're an ABC company.
Yeah. Disney Plus. There you go.
Yep. I might have already suggested that to Disney Plus. They have a little section that you can suggest movies and TV shows. I was like, all of General Hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll do it eventually, I
hope so. Cause it's right now we have to use YouTube. And if you go on YouTube and put in like your storyline and everything, it's VHS tapes that people probably seriously set up like a camcorder to stream onto YouTube or something. Mm-hmm. But
it's true. It's true. I've seen some of those. People send me those things, but they need to get the actual archival ABC footage. Yeah.
We agree.
I mean, they're going to have to figure out how to get revenue streams, so they might as well.
Exactly.
I would absolutely pay for that. I would absolutely pay to be able to watch 58 years of General Hospital.
Yeah.
When they had the 50th anniversary, there was SoapNet, and they did 50 hours of General Hospital.
Uh-huh.
And I taped all of them because they showed the first one, and then they showed a lot of the major storylines.
Right. We
could be saving the show right now here. Thank you.
I think you two would be perfect candidates for it.
I meant you too. Like this is a
right.
I'm in. Absolutely. No, it's great. It's humbling. It's I'm blessed to have been part of a storyline that people still care about and that was meaningful. Because having done the work and having put my time there, if it would have just gone away, it would have been fine. But I'm glad to see that it has legs and it's still relevant. And it's nice.
And you are still like receiving it very well. Cause I know that sometimes actors can get very, they're never going to see me as more than blah, blah, blah. Or, right. It's wonderful to hear you still talk about it with, the passion and the love of the character and the time that you spent there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I put in too much to not have that forever.
Yeah. So what's your favorite memory from being on the set or the show or anything?
Good question. I had a nice kind of compliment from Maurice because I was not very good at the beginning of my acting career, and I was doing most of my scenes with Maurice. And you two will appreciate this because it sort of goes back to what he's so open about now. But the first day that I had scenes with Sonny and Stone, Maurice just was amazing. He had probably 12 scenes, so much dialogue, and he just ripped through it all and just was brilliant. And I was like, wow, impressed by just the amount of material that he was able to just process, go through. I mean, it's a lot. It's overwhelming at the start, but he had 10 years on me and he was on another soap opera. So he was it wasn't that big of a deal for him, I guess. It's still a lot of work, but he knew the format. And then on like day 2 or day 3, he had like a panic attack. And it was like one of the first scenes of the day. And he had another like 12 scenes or so with me that day. And I was like, what's going on? Because that wasn't the same Maurice from day 1. And he was kind of scared and a little shaky. And, I was a complete novice, but I was like, I've seen you rip it. So something must go on. So I looked at him and I said, all right, I'll get you through these scenes. Just rely on me and I'll pull you through it. And, he's looking at me like, you're going to pull me through these scenes. Like, what do you, but anyway, because he was in that sort of condition and state, it worked. And I got him through I think that was day 2. So I got him through day 2. Day 3, I think he called in sick. And so that was like on a Friday. And on the next Monday, I showed up and I was hoping that everything was okay. And he confided in me and he says, listen, you're just starting, he goes, obviously you're not a great actor. You're probably not even a good actor, but you've got something. He was being like, he was setting me up for like the compliment, which was, but you got me through, but whatever you have is there. And for getting me through that day, where I was completely overwhelmed, I am going to take you under my wing and I'm going to, make sure that I teach you everything that I know. And he did. He really did take me under his wing, and all my scenes were with him. And it started to become fun because the dynamic that we started to have, the chemistry, you could start to see on screen. And he said to me, he goes, I said to him, thank you. I really appreciate that. If you do take me under your wing, I'll work really hard. And I know I'm not very good right now where it's exciting to do scenes with me, but I guarantee you, if you do put in that time, there'll be a time where, you'll want to work with me and you'll appreciate, having made that decision. So when the AIDS storyline was in full effect, I mean, we were just doing great work. Maurice knocked on my door at the dressing room and he said, well, I just want to let you know what happened. And I said, what happened? And he said, well, I just went upstairs to the producers and Wendy Rich and the writers, and I demanded that they write more scenes for Sonny and Stone. And he goes, you told me that one day it would come full circle and that I would want to do scenes with you. And he reminded me of the story. And at that time, I knew about him being bipolar, and I knew that he took lithium. And I knew that at that time, I guess he didn't take it those day 2 and 3 or something. And he started to like have the effects of it. So I knew that about Maurice for all those years, but he never talked about it publicly. And I never thought anybody else knew. So cut 2 years later, I went to support a film that he did. And when I went to the screening of it, it was about mental health and about this subject matter. And then he started becoming more open about it. And then I think he wrote the book. And then it was like full steam with, all right, I suffer from this. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant, because obviously it's not something that he was talking about 25 years ago.
Right. And we read the book last year. I think we got it the day that it came out. And I think there were several times where he wound up like calling in and, not being able to go to work. And
yeah, he would say back then, he'd say, don't ask me a question because I can't lie. So if you're not prepared to hear the answer, realize I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to offend you because I'm going to shoot straight. Not that it was right, wrong, or indifferent, but that was his prerogative to say, that's my opinion. So it would be an ongoing joke where he'd say it. He goes, you like, everyone would want advice by someone who's like, we looked up to, and he would say, you sure you want my opinion? And he was blunt, but that's how he dealt with his, bipolar disorder back then, was to just let people know, hey, I'm not going to change for you because it'll throw me off my healing and what I have to do to stay on that straight and narrow. So I don't lie. here's what it is. I hope you can process it, or just I won't answer, or don't ask me.
Right. Well, that was sweet. And I think that's something that Steve talked about too, is that he was really good with, if you were willing to work with him, that he was willing to put the effort into working with you too. So, you know, if you wanted to be receiving from his experience and everything, he would do it.
And it's funny. It's like acting. There's a lot of different techniques and a lot of different sort of strategies. And then there's method acting, and there's all kinds of different sort of legendary, you know, paths to take. And one of the first acting coaches when I got hired, well, I didn't really work well with, for whatever reason. He was not encouraging enough with me. And so it was just, I always wasn't doing it the right way. And it wasn't nurturing enough for me. And so I didn't progress. And Maurice became sort of the acting coach for me until John Homa came around when the Robin and Stone storyline hit. So Maurice was like my coach, and the person that was hired to be the coach of all like the younger cast members. I just didn't sort of feel what he was trying to teach me. And when I would get up to the set, the producers would have a different take than what that coach was telling me. So it was counterproductive. And then it was hurting my confidence, you know, because after a while you're like, wow, what do they want from me? You know, and what direction do they want to go with this character? And it was all new. So it was overwhelming in that sense. So with Maurice going through what he was going through and me trying to find, you know, the confidence and the character, Maurice became like my best friend. So day in and day out, I mean, we had lunch together. We were in each other's dressing rooms, you know, in between scenes and just talking and whatever. And if, you know, any of my family had come down, he would be interacting with my mom or my grandma or whatever. We had this really great rapport. So when I left GH, the thing that I missed the most was the friendship with Maurice. And it's funny, you know, at that time, Maurice didn't have that with anybody else, not with Antonio, not with Steve, not with any, that was our little thing. But when I had left, I noticed that he then had that same rapport with Steve. So he found like that cast mate to like have that friendship with. And that sort of, that was nice to see. Cause I was worried about him. I was worried how he was going to survive there without me.
Well, and you guys both started around the same time. So it's like you were the new kids on the block that were, you know, trying to get used to everybody else. So
yeah. And we were taking over the storyline. So it's like,
right.
We were alienated in that sense because we also weren't friends with everybody on the cast yet. And then we were getting the material, and you know how that goes. It's like we wanted to prove ourselves, and we didn't want them to hate us. And then luckily it all, you know, got sort of intertwined and interwoven, and there was enough people in that Robin and Stone storyline that everyone felt involved.
Yeah. Well, and both of you had really heavy storylines from the get-go. You know, you were just coming in off the street. Sonny was running a strip club, and then, I mean, Karen progressed really quickly into the drugs, and
she was great too. That was she really came out of her shell in that storyline, and she found herself in that role.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still keep up with her every now and then too. She's great. I did a film with Antonio after GH where we played brothers.
Oh.
Yeah. We shot that in Bulgaria, and it was cool. It was called Hypersonic. It didn't get released in the theaters in the US, just overseas.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could find it online now.
Right.
So
Hypersonic. Yeah. It's actually cool. They in Bulgaria, they had, green screen. So it was sort of like a race around the world in these jets. And, so it was all green screen, and they did a good job for the budget. I mean, it looks fantastic.
awesome.
I think the budget of the film was all of probably a couple $1,000,000. I don't know. And, it looks like a, $15-20 million film.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out.
We will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been waiting 25 years to talk to him.
She told me that she was going to surprise me and not tell me that we were interviewing you. And I was like, I'm really glad you didn't do that because I might not be able to talk at all. So I'm glad that I had the preparation.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
I don't know anything else about GH to talk about. What's next for you? What are you working on now? Like, where do you see yourself continuing on?
Well, I mean, I love the entertainment industry and I love storytelling. I don't know if that's where I'm spending my time, energy, and effort, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe I'll get back to it at some point. It's phenomenal. I think it's something very needed, especially when you realize that we're the escape in people's lives that, allow them to have a few minutes of calm and not think about whatever problems they have or the stress of their daily life. So I think, even the nominal entertaining stuff is important just culturally for people to have that escape. So the value's there. I just don't know if it's my calling anymore. I didn't get into acting because I wanted to be famous. I didn't get into acting for a lot of the reasons that some people do. So I don't have that drive to really need that to validate me. And a lot of times people need that drive to put themselves out there to do it anymore. And I proved to myself that I could act. I accomplished some of the things that I wanted to do. So I'm not as driven with it, to be honest with you, as I was when I was a kid.
And I would think that we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I mean, you're a legacy, you had a legacy character, you changed the landscape for a storyline. Really, I don't know what you could have done that would have topped that personally. It's
right. Yeah. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have topped it. It would have just been, okay, I'm getting paid to continue to do something and then stay in that. But, at that point, there wasn't enough reason to keep doing it. It potentially only would have watered down and diluted what I did do. Right. Because if I went on to just play some random character that was insignificant, then I don't have the framing of just what I did, so it's in a way it's almost better. And I mean, think about it. It's 3 years of work, almost, so let's say the beginning of this show, I was on 2 or 3 days a week. And then for the last year and a half, I was on 5 days a week. So I've got a lot of shows that if they put together an ensemble piece and composite, I've got a lot of material that I can say, all right, here's what I did.
Yeah. Weird question. When they mention you on the show, do you get like a check for $20 or something?
I must, because there's like very little nominal checks that come in as,
We've just always wondered that because, you're mentioned at least once a year around the nurses' ball. So
yeah, it's enough to buy a cup of coffee.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we know that you're on social media. Do you want to share with everyone where they can find you? And
yeah, sure. I post some stuff on my Instagram, Sutton Michael. And then I have my Twitter, which I use Michael SS Sutton, and it's not my middle initial. And don't ask me why I chose it, but at the time I was like, I didn't have just Michael Sutton, and I thought, wow, that sounded like a stadium introduction of my name, Michael Sutton. So I was like, oh, but it's not my middle initial. So anyway, that's what it is.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's my Twitter. That's my Twitter. And, otherwise I'm at the agency in Beverly Hills where I do my real estate. And I have a new company that we launched. That's a fund called Side Equity Ventures. And so we'll be doing some technology stuff. We'll be doing some renewable energy. We'll be doing some real estate development. And that's what we're focused on right now. And I had gotten involved in this company in Africa. So one of the things that was cool is last year I got an award from Paladec for entrepreneurship with giving back and creating business opportunities in Africa. So it's based in Accra, Ghana. I've been to Ghana a bunch of times, and that continent is very exciting because it's where all the natural resources are, It's where, everyone is looking to the future towards, because, of all the things that, we know are precious, from the metals and diamonds and, semiconductors and materials that are needed for all the computer chips and accessories and things like that. So we're very much involved in Ghana, and that's where you find me these days.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you both.
You only do the luxury real estate though, right?
Well, I'm just familiar with this market. So okay. I concentrate on the Beverly Hills flats and Truesdale and, Sunset Plaza and this sort of niche market, just because I know it. And that's where I can lend my expertise towards.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
If I ever have anyone looking out there, I'll let them know to use you.
Sounds good. I will do the same for Pittsburgh.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was really nice. It was my pleasure to meet you both, talk to you, and thank you.
Hopefully this won't be the last time we chat, and have fun tomorrow talking to Stephen Bradford. You'll have a good time.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it. We'll do it anytime you girls want.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. He's just so nice. And I know we say this every time for real, but you could hear the pride about the storyline in his voice, and the fact that it wasn't, no question that we asked, was he tired of hearing or answered that on 10 other platforms or whatever. He was 100% committed to, sure, yeah, I'm excited. Let's talk about it. This was awesome. This was great. Yeah. And then we got some inside scoop too. It was awesome.
It was great. And I hope to God that somebody from Pittsburgh needs to move out to LA, and then I can refer them to him. So, hey, if you live in Pittsburgh or if you live in LA and are looking to move to LA
and you need a very expensive house in LA.
Yeah. So luxury real estate, I imagine, is, so I have a friend who lives in LA actually. And one of the houses that I just sold, she was like, that almost made me move to Pittsburgh because that's what a 2-bedroom townhouse costs out here.
Wow.
And she's like, you get all that land for that? I was like, yep.
Yeah.
That's why Pittsburgh's labeled one of the most affordable cities.
Yes.
So anyway, I digress on that. But you're exactly right. And like I said, you do see some actors get tired of answering certain questions. Right. And they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that character again.
Exactly.
He was so humbled and just so, he has a good spirit.
Yes.
So it was absolutely wonderful. And like Amanda said, so I really was not going to tell her that we were interviewing him. That was going to be her Christmas present.
I'm so thankful that you did, because I really don't know that I could have said anything if I did not have the fair warning that it was happening. So.
But what a great way to kind of round out 2020 and on an up note.
Right. And it's perfect with the 25th anniversary. It goes right along with that perfectly.
Exactly. I don't know. So join us on Monday as we recap this week's episodes.
And have a good weekend.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to pier54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review.
And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Pier 54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at pier54podcast@gmail.com.